Arsenal made it 8 wins in a row to start the Premier League year off as they scored a late winner against Brentford. Now, while it was a very different performance to the games they've been playing recently, Arsenal showed their title chances with brilliant resilience to get the win in the end, which sends them top of the league for the time being. Let's go through the review of the game today and talk about some of the star players. Well, what an interesting game that ended up being. Arsenal have quite frankly been thrashing every single team in the Premier League for the last few months. So coming into this game against Brentford, I was expecting a win, and I think obviously most Arsenal fans were. But there was added pressure on it. We had Ramsdale in goal, who hasn't played in there before, and Martinelli was not in the squad, while also if we won, we would have been top of the league. Now, first of all, it wasn't the best performance in the world. I don't know if they've got maybe a couple of eyes on the massive game on Tuesday against Porto, and that maybe is the case, but I think there was an expectation that we would win this game anyway. But nevertheless, Arsenal still were very dominant, and they struggled to get really past that Brentford chances in the first half. It was mostly because Brentford were pressing very well, and they were really doing well at getting out to us and making sure we didn't have enough time in the ball. Ultimately, Arsenal had lots of the possession and scored a really good goal in the first half coming from Declan Rice's head. Now, I think Saka in this game did really well on that right side. He's often getting two-manned up or three-manned up on, so it's very hard for him to actually have much impact, but he was still trying his hardest. And I didn't really think our attack was working at times. I think Havertz missed some key chances, but still was doing his overall running ability that you expect. And I just didn't think Trossard was really in the game. He didn't really get on the ball, and he really struggles out on that left side, I think. But it looked like going into half-time, Arsenal was still going to have the dominant 1-0 win, and I think it would have been hard for Brentford to actually get a way back into the game because they would have had to come for it a lot more. But ultimately, Aaron Ramsdale did make a major mistake. He was too long on the ball, got closed down by Visser, and it went in. And now I know a lot of people are complaining, and I actually did do a video about saying Aaron Ramsdale will probably be alright, and obviously in the end I think he was okay, but that is a massive mistake and let us down there with the goal. And I think it really explains why Raya's playing. Now, I don't think Ramsdale necessarily is that much worse than Raya, and I definitely think there's some rustiness to it. Ramsdale hasn't played this much this season, so being straight away Premier League ready for a game that matters so much to us, it was a lot asking for him. But in my opinion, he should just pass it off to the defenders really quickly, and even the pass that he goes to do, I don't think is necessarily going to reach where he wanted to. And it weren't the first time or the only time in the game. In the second half as well, there was a few times where he had time on the ball, and he even takes too long and kicks it out or just messes up the pass completely. And I think his distribution was good, but I think it's slowly becoming worse for Arsenal, and I think we saw that and also wanted that improvement with Raya. Ultimately, a lot of people are still blaming Aaron Ramsdale, and we got this result in the end. It doesn't really matter. I know it's necessarily not down to him, but I think it is in a sense. I think in the second half he was really good and did show why he was very good for Arsenal at a point. Shot stopping ability is very high. As much as if Toney had scored from that position, I think there would have been a lot of complaints about maybe his position in that situation, but he has to play far out the pitch like a lot of our goalkeepers do. Often half the time they're even outside the box, not really in it. But he does a really good stretch save to make sure Toney didn't score there, and I really thought the save, I think, from Collins later on was amazing. I think Kivior loses Collins, lets him go. He pretty much should score. It's a free header 8 yards out. Ramsdale does really good fingertips to just put it over, so he deserves a lot of credit, and he made up for that mistake in the first half in my opinion. And I thought individually our defence was really good in this game, but I think overall there was sometimes they got maybe a bit flustered, probably because they don't trust Ramsdale in a sense. He kept making poor passes, and I think it let a lot of insecurities creep in a little bit, but I still think they were all very excellent. I think Kivior struggled a little bit, but there's nothing too deep, and I thought the other three were really insane again. And that eventually led, I think Ben White was the best player on the pitch, but I'm going to do a separate video about how he was so good in this game. But I think a brilliant cross by him into Havertz's head, and Havertz gets in front of his defender and heads it in near post to win us the game. Now, Havertz is becoming a big game player, and now a lot of his goals have still come when Arsenal have been thrashing teams. I think a lot of them have showed different qualities. He's getting way more confident, and he's getting way more confident in good positions. And although he is very wasteful, and that is respectable, I've said this, he did miss a really good chance in the first half. His control on the ball is getting much better, and I really like his link-up play going in the middle, passing it out wide. Even when Jesus was on the pitch, you're just thinking that Havertz looks more dangerous and looks more like a natural goal scorer in a sense. I think Jesus is a brilliant player, but he necessarily doesn't really think about shooting a lot of the time. And this is why he was signed for Arsenal. Arsenal scored 2 headers in this game, and it was by 2 new signings, and I think that really shows the direction that Mikel Arteta wants to go in, not necessarily just from set pieces, which we were still very dangerous from in this game. It is about that physicality around the team and about the height that we now have that we didn't have last season, being able to score headers quite easily. So I often think actually we'd missed quite a lot, especially our attacking line before. When you're crossing the ball in, you've got Havertz in there, you've got Jesus in there, and you've got Nelson. Okay, the other two might not be good at heading, but at least there's options in there, and we really showed well and a lot of mentality to get back in and win this game. Now, I know there's complaints about Havertz should potentially being sent off, and I think he does dive a little bit. We maybe got lucky there, but I also think Trossard should have definitely got a penalty. A very similar thing happened in the Man United-Man City game a few months ago, and that was given as a penalty, and now it's not. I don't really like mid-season them changing the goalpost. And there was many times that we were just getting pulled on the floor in the box and nothing was given. It was clearly they just wanted not to give a decision and they just wanted to make it easy, but that's not really how it works. If it's a decision there to be made, you have to make it. But fair play to Brentford as well. They had a 5-back situation. They basically played most of their team back and they were very good at getting out to us, and we really struggled. I think some of the centre-backs had quite a good game, which is weird because they're usually awful. I've watched loads of Brentford games and they are not great. And now they wanted to come up and perform, but they did really well in the end, and fair play. But their goal was at the end of the day a mistake from us. And although they probably should have got a goal in other ways, I don't think they really created too much, and the XG was incredibly high, especially from that goal they scored. It was also really good to see Zinchenko come on. Now, he didn't really do too much, but he got on the ball a little bit, and I really liked that. And I think overall our team, it did work, but I think the fact that Brentford was so intense made us struggle, and even Jorginho didn't have the best of games, so I don't really think it was his fault, because there was many points in the first half where he was doing brilliant passes still and getting in really good positions. It's just a lot of the times we didn't take them chances and had often got manned up on. But overall, this shows a lot. They had 5 or 8 men against the ball, Brentford, trying to play out for a 1-1 draw, and they did try and have scored in the second half, and they were probably better than us in a lot of the second half, but Arsenal dug deep and got the result in the end. I think Saka, Odegaard and White worked really well on that right side. The interchange between them three, always running, always moving, was very hard to keep up with. That eventually got us the goal that we needed, with Havertz getting his head on it. And as long as you can get Havertz in them positions and get the balls in there, he's not going to miss them chances. As long as Arsenal can keep this mentality up as well for the rest of the season, I think there is definitely a chance to do something. It wasn't like a game that we've been dominating and thrashing people like we have been before. It was another game we had to grind out a result and bite between our teeth to get there, and I think that also shows another level, because when we do play Manchester City, which is our next Premier League game, obviously going to be a lot more like this than it will be their other games we've played. Also, one of a note about Toney. Now, obviously the rumours have come out that apparently we're not even interested in him anymore. If you follow anything on Twitter and follow reliable Arsenal sources, it seems that we don't want him because the board weren't happy with the personality of the player, likening him to someone like Aubameyang, who really ruined the dressing room when he was there. And I actually can agree with this. You can see in his interviews that he thinks he's the main character, thinks it's all about him, and he often disrespects Brentford and all the people that has made him his career in the first place, when a few years ago he was playing for Peterborough. I think Toney's a brilliant player, but I don't know if we necessarily need to go out and spend a lot of money on him, because I think we could get better players in different positions. And maybe Toney needs to be humbled in a sense, and I think in this game he was humbled. He barely even got on the ball, and I think Vissa looked more dangerous. But overall, you take that result any day of the week. As much as we had to grind out for it, I take it in the end. And Ramsdale, that'll probably be his last game for the club. Unfortunately, he made a mistake, but I still think he made himself respectable in the second half. Now, obviously, we've got a massive game on Tuesday. It's the big one with Porto, and then we've got quite a long time before we even play our next game against Man City. Let's hope we can get a result in that, and let's see what system we play. I think probably the same team would play, but maybe Martinelli, hopefully he will be back. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think about this result and think about the game on Tuesday, what's going to happen. If you like this video, please watch our video yesterday where I talk about how great Arteta is. Thank you for watching.